On December the 24th, 1836, in the year of our Lord, one of London's most successful, if reviled, businessmen, named Jacob Marley, died.
It's hard to imagine a world in which Christmas didn't include Ebenezer Scrooge, Bob Cratchit, or the Ghost of Christmas Past. But people who celebrated Christmas prior to the mid-19th century didn't have to imagine such a world. That was simply their reality. But in 1843, during a time when Christmas was rapidly changing on both sides of the Atlantic, due in large part to some very influential works of literature, Charles Dickens published what would become among the most famous works of Christmas fiction, A Christmas Carol. Now, if we're being pedantic, and why shouldn't we, the actual title of that novella was A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a ghost story of Christmas. And those of you familiar with the text will know that Dickens opens the story with that iconic line, "Marley was dead," to begin with. What we just heard a moment ago, though, is a telling of A Christmas Carol that's not in prose, but rather dramatized for a full cast. Not text on a page, but rather brought to life in resplendent, immersive audio. Not a line-for-line recitation, but updated and imagined in some ways, while also remaining true to the story's familiar core. Scrooge, A Christmas Carol is a 4-part audio drama podcast presentation from Hope Media and Compassion International, with an all-star cast including Sean Astin as Ebenezer Scrooge, and the voice we just heard, John Rhys-Davies, as the narrator. You know him, of course, as Gimli from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Sala from the Indiana Jones movies, and countless other roles, including another turn as Dickens' narrator, this time in the 1994 television movie A Flintstones Christmas Carol. I had a chance to connect with John Rhys-Davies recently to talk about the enduring appeal and timeless message of A Christmas Carol. Now, A Christmas Carol is over 180 years old now. It's certainly 1843 it came out. It wasn't the only Christmas story of its time. It wasn't even the only one that Dickens wrote. And yet, this is the one that we come back to universally, year after year, as the sort of emblem of Christmas. What is it about this story that continues to captivate us almost 200 years later?
What an interesting question. Well, it's a well-constructed story. It's got interesting characters. He had this wonderful idea at a point in his life where he was really down and really low, and the idea came to him, and he started writing it, and he fell in love with the characters. We've all known the Scrooges. There are so many of them in Hollywood this very day, and they are unlikable, unlovable, money counting, only interested in money, and they're not necessarily as frugal as Scrooge was, but their souls really do not extend beyond pinching that last penny and nickel and diming things. And in Victorian England, that would have been very strong, and evidence to him, because the gulf between poor and rich was so extraordinary. Don't forget, the life of expectancy of a woman at that time would probably not have been more than 40 years, if that. Life expectancy in the last 100 and so years has actually doubled effectively, particularly for women. If you married and if you had children, they would die. Many of them would die. And for anyone who has come across that sort of grief, the the damage done by such a loss to your whole idea of who you are as a man, as a father, is extraordinary. I mean, many men will tell you that they lost a son or lost a child, and they lost their mojo. The function of being a father is of course, to protect your wife and your children. Daddy, in the end, must always solve the problems. And you cannot solve the problem of a dying child sometimes. I mean, your great philosopher, Thoreau, is that how you say his name? Thoreau?
Yes.
Said,
Yep.
Most men live lives of quiet desperation. And I think in America at that time, and I think in certainly in Europe at that time, that was the case. There were no safety nets under you. You lived or died by the combination of hard work, good fortune, and sometimes good friendships. And I think it takes it back to that world where we are talking about elementary things. We're talking about survival, the disparity of wealth, and the need to be charitable. You know, and now abideth three things: faith, hope, and love, which is either caritas, which is more near charity. And the greatest of these is love. It's also a time where the end of the year, we always look together and think, oh, what have I done this year? Not much. But there is that prospect of the celebration of Christmas, which is the celebration of the rebirth of hope, in a way. You know, for Christians, the birth of Christ is the birth of hope. And we celebrate that every year because hope has to be renewed. And to do it annually has always made some sort of sense.
And you just touched on a concept I'd like to get into, because the story contains lots of elements familiar to us when it comes to Christmas: familial love, charity, like you said, the notion of festivity. But also in this story, there is a strong element of redemption. And I think you just touched on it. I think the question is, what does redemption have to do with Christmas? Why would that be central to one of the most famous Christmas stories?
Well, it's obviously central to the Christian message. But more than that, it is, by and large, the world we live in is cursed by our incompetence or our neglect or our anger or our arrogance or our plain downright miserable negativity. And what it says, what the story says, is people can change. Redemption is possible. You know, if you can change the heart, you can change the world. You can change the environment of those around you. If you find love for other people, then you in yourself will be redeemed, are redeemed. And that's, of course, what happens to Scrooge. Scrooge can change. We can change. I mean, love is one of those wonderful banks, isn't it? That the more you spend, the more you have in your balance. And that's, for some people, that's a very hard lesson to learn. But if we learn it, and when we learn it, and we start spending that love, which is expressed in ways of listening to people, of just doing a kind act. But to get into the habit of doing that is something. Yesterday, I did a kind act. I saw a couple struggling with an awful lot of luggage at the airport, and wheelchairs and two babies and things like that. So I slipped my card in and paid $6 and bought them a trolley, which actually just made their lives a little bit easier at that moment. It's those simple acts of kindness that change them, make that life a little bit easier for them. And more than that, reminded me of the times when I'd been struggling with babies and things like that. There's a lovely line of Hopkins. He's talking about visiting the sick. This seeing the sick endears them to us. Us too it endears. And it is that sense that Christmas gives us that opportunity to come outside ourselves and exchange the gift. Not even exchange the gift. Give. And when you do that, you get back so much more. We need Christmas because we need hope. We need hope to be reaffirmed as often as we can. And if we do not do it in our own daily lives, then perhaps we need the story of Christmas to remind ourselves.
And what a perfect way to wrap up. So I will say, John Rhys-Davies, thank you so much for joining me on Christmas Past, and a Merry Christmas to you.
And a Merry Christmas to you, and God bless Tiny Tim.
I only wish we could have spoken for longer, but actors like him are busy people, and I'm grateful for the short time we had together. Scrooge, A Christmas Carol debuted in 2023 and is set for re-release on November 22nd of this year. Find it on your favorite podcast app or go to scroogepodcast.com for more info. I'll leave a link in this episode's show notes. My thanks to John Rhys-Davies and also to Ashley Block for making all of this possible. And of course, thank you for being here and listening. If you're listening in real time, Thanksgiving is 2 weeks from today. Here at Christmas Past headquarters, the tree and the rest of the decorations are already up. I've bought all my provisions for Stir Up Sunday. We're listening to carols and reading Christmas bedtime stories to little Dashiell. Whether you consider this the Christmas season or the Christmas pre-season, I hope you're enjoying it. And I'm looking forward to spending it with you. So I'll be back again this time next week with something new. I hope you'll be back too. And until then, I'll tell you that Christmas Past is produced in wonderful Willow Glen, California by yours truly, Brian Earl. You can drop me a line anytime, and I always love to hear from you, whether it's just to say hi or to share a Christmas memory to appear in an episode later this season. To do that, simply record yourself speaking into your phone's voice memo app and send it over. Keep it reasonably short, clean, and family-friendly, and remember to say your name and where you're from. We can also connect on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do join our private Christmas Past Facebook group if you haven't yet. And hey, if you're really feeling the Christmas spirit, why not help more people discover this show? It's as simple as telling a friend about it or leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. If you do leave a review, I'll send you a Christmas Past sticker, and a handwritten Christmas card is my way of saying thanks. Reach out for details, and until we meet again, may your days be merry and bright.